Yo, 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 what is going on? It's your man Jay Emmanuel back with a new episode. And today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. I got my man, the one and only Julian Wallace in the building. What's going on with you, bro?
What's going on, man? I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh man, I'm so honored to have you on the podcast today, man. This is going to be a great conversation. You're actually absolutely killing it when it comes to video production. Excited to learn about your business and most importantly, how your journey got started, man. So one of the ways that I like to kick things off is just getting your take. What would you say is the biggest distraction or hindrance that tends to prevent aspiring entrepreneurs from earning their first 1K plus per month?
Well, getting to the first 1,000 is probably just like a limiting belief that
Mm,
they can do it or not, because that's like the entry point, right? So most people have a trouble of just starting. And I think once they start, they'll see how simplistic it really is to start making money. Obviously, you have to develop certain skills, right? But once you actually put yourself
mhm.
out there and get started, it becomes like very, very simple.
Nah, I love that. And with that in mind, let's take a little trip down memory lane. Can you remember the first 1K or even more that you were able to make in a month online?
So when we say online, are we saying like
Mhm.
through an online business or through acquiring clients online for like a service-based business that's like in person?
It could be both. It could totally be both.
Okay. So I'll go back to like my first clients I got. It was in video production as a freelancer,
Hmm.
and I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I just started posting like content, right? Like my portfolio. I was using hashtags like Los Angeles videographer. And this wasn't my first 1,000, but it was like my first 500. And
Nice.
I ended up, so I was posting like Los Angeles videographer. And then this woman reached out to me. Her name is Ari. And she's like a motivational speaker. She helps people build their brands, but she also makes documentaries. And she reached out to me through Instagram to film a part of the documentary, just an interview. And it turned out to be with this actor named Isaiah Washington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's from like Grey's Anatomy. He's been in, like Spike Lee
Yeah.
movies, right? Yeah. So that was my first taste of just like putting myself out there online and getting business through that. And that let me know right then that, as long as you put yourself out there, it's super simple, right? Like obviously there's some tactics and you have to be essentially like at least decent at what you do. But I was very new, right? Like I didn't even know how to do manual focus. Like I shot it autofocus. I was so new, but I had a good eye and she saw that and that was like one of my
Hmm.
first $500 right there. And then also going into that, I also like put some ads out on Craigslist. So I got a few clients from that. So
Hmm.
that's how I got my first 1,000. But then as far as like online money, about a year ago, I launched a coaching program where I teach videographers how to transition from a freelancer that's making like 3 to 5K a month into a content
Hmm.
agency owner that's making 10 to 30K a month. Because I was able to scale my content agency with my wife to $30,000 a month. So I launched that last August and I got my first client last August online through running paid ads and making putting out video content that way.
Wow, man. Yo, I love it. And I appreciate you for giving us kind of like a recap of the milestones that you hit on your journey to making that first 1K. And with that in mind, I would love to kind of start off looking at your journey as a freelancer. Like you mentioned, it was kind of new. You were using the autofocus and you happened to land a client and it was for what I would assume is a really cool project. Was it a cool project?
Yeah, really cool because it let me know like, man, you just put yourself out there, anything can happen, right? Because I had no
Mhm.
clue that my one of my first projects would be with the like actual, you know, actor, right?
Right.
Even though
Like
like
who
it
could
was
have
just
imagined?
exactly like it was just like interviewing him, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like we weren't like scene, there was like no scripts or anything, right? But it was still like really, really cool.
Like,
Just to experience that so early.
yeah, that's dope. And the fact that you were getting paid to do it. Like it's
Exactly,
like the
exactly.
icing on top, man.
And the thing is like I mean, I can't even say that I charged too little,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I didn't know any better. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
probably like my skill set at the time. But she
Mm-hmm.
said yes super fast, so I know I know I
Mm.
could charge more. She didn't try to negotiate or nothing. She just said, "Bet, let's go."
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, that's super dope. And when you look back on that experience, how long had you been doing videography at that point?
So I started off. Okay, so go back to like my history. So my dad
Hmm.
is a filmmaker.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he's a filmmaker. He goes by Sam Styles in
Hmm.
his filmmaking, and he started off in like music videos. He used to do stuff for like Too Short, E40, Kirk
Yo,
Franklin.
that's dope.
Yep, yep. He also did some stuff with Tupac too. So so I had my first. He helped me shoot like a short film in high school for like a project. So that was my first actual like project where I had scripted it. I had
Wow.
different shot lists, different scenes, and I edited it and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And then that was just like the first thing there. Then fast forward to college, I
Hmm.
started getting into like YouTube. I started to do like reactions. I would react to different videos and
Hmm.
things like that. So I was getting more comfortable with the camera. I also was into music. So I was filming like little remixes that I was doing to songs and putting that on YouTube. But then one of my friends, as I was looking for a way to make money, I was applying to jobs and not getting hired. And one of my friends, who's also a creative, he was shooting content and making like 300 per video, right? So
Hmm.
because of the experience that I had in high school plus on YouTube, I was like, I can definitely do this too. So then I just started doing a couple like free shoots to, start to build my portfolio. I would, like I said, I post stuff on Instagram. I would reach out to people and they liked my work.
Hmm.
So from there, I started to build a portfolio, and like I said, I started working like with Ari, got the Isaiah Washington gig, and then I started promoting myself on Craigslist because it was super simple to get business on Craigslist at that time, and I was doing anything, right? So I was doing like some music videos, I was doing
Hmm.
some birthday videos. I started working because of my dad's connection. I started working with Too Short on his podcast, and then from there.
Nice.
I started working with a real estate investor. He was doing like real estate flips, and he
Hmm.
wanted me to film like the before and after. I got him through Craigslist, and
Wow.
initially it was through like another person. So the person hired me as a videographer
Hmm.
to work with this real estate investor, right? And the
Hmm.
work was really good. And the guy wanted to start like a coaching program. So so I pitched it to him like, hey, we should do like, YouTube also, right? YouTube, I can chop
Hmm.
it up on Instagram. So then I was working with him, but then the other guy was like the middleman. And
Hmm.
then they found out that that guy was just saying that all the work I was doing was his work,
Wow.
right? Yeah.
Wow.
So then they stopped working, they cut him out and just wanted to work with me directly.
Hmm.
So then I started paying them like 500 per video, and it was like 4 videos at a time, right? So I was making
Hmm.
like 2,000 here, 1,500 here.
Hmm.
And then we had like a gap in time where there was a gap in shoots and I got like antsy, right?
Hmm.
So I started thinking, okay, how can I leverage this? Because I know that this guy can benefit from a consistent presence in order to grow his coaching program. So I reached out to them and I, pitched them on hiring me full time. So then they hired me full time. It was about like $22 an hour. And my goal there was to use that job as experience. So
Okay.
I used that job essentially to like learn how to edit, right? Learn how to edit because I knew
Right.
I had to like I'd have to edit a lot of videos, right?
Yeah.
So learn how to do that. I learned how to do content research, how to find different topics, how to do SEO on YouTube, right? I learned how to post to Facebook, Instagram, all these different places, turn those into short form. And then that started to do well. I learned how to do YouTube ads as well for him. He started to get a lot of traction. But then the last couple months I was there, he got distracted.
Mm.
And I'm someone who I need to see growth,
Hmm.
for me to want to stay, right?
Right.
So I didn't see growth. I was just sitting in this room most of the time, just like twiddling my thumbs, bored. And I was like, "Look, listen, you got to use me or lose me." and he was like saying, well, lots going on, blah, blah, blah. And my head's like, look, like I need motion, right?
Right.
So I ended up quitting that job to start my own company, which is called More Than a Dreamer. And
Hmm.
initially it was supposed to be like a podcast, just like this, what I
Okay.
would interview people in person and talk about, their success and like, what it took for them to be more than a dreamer in order for them to achieve their dreams, because you have to be like more than, like, you just can't dream, right? Like it's all about
Right.
achieving. So I did a few of those interviews. I did about five of them. And then COVID happened and I
Mm.
wasn't able to meet people in person
Hmm.
anymore. Complete lockdown. So that business stopped. And at the time, I was actually growing a Facebook page for this, and I was spending money on Facebook ads to grow this group. I grew it to about 10,000,
Wow.
but I wasn't earning any income. So it's essentially
Mm.
like a money pit, right?
Yeah.
So I had to stop that, and I moved back to my hometown, Sacramento. And then I thought, okay, I have all of this real estate content because he's a real estate investor, right?
Hmm.
I was like, and there's only one group of people that are still working during COVID. It was realtors
Yeah.
because they have an essential business. So like, okay, why don't I get into that essential business? So I started posting content, giving value to realtors about, why they should work with me essentially. And then I started to get real estate clients locally. And that turned into me doing like real estate listings for them, also like profile videos, which were like super like about me videos. They're like super high
Hmm.
production. And that it got attention of a lot of realtors and things like that. And then I did that for about a year, doing real estate photography, real estate listings. I also did some side projects with like a construction company. So during this time, I'm starting to like rack up my income, where I'm making
Hmm.
like average, like I'd say like 3 to 5K. Then I have like some 10K, some 10K months during that
Hmm.
process. And then I saw an opportunity based on what I did with the real estate investor, because of the trends that I saw, to also start offering short form content to help them build their brands. So I started offering that to a couple of my clients and they really liked it. And then I saw an opportunity to scale that because very repeatable, and I didn't have any competitors who are doing it. So I ended up pivoting strictly to that. I stopped doing listings and photography altogether, and I just got really good at helping them build their brands through short form content. And then I was able to scale that process with my wife. I ended up building a team. We got like our own studio where people would come and film too. We ended up
Hmm.
scaling that to $30,000 a month. And then once I scaled that, then I saw an opportunity to go two ways. I'd say, okay, I could either continue to scale this and go into different territories, right? Where I could like maybe franchise or have different locations.
Hmm.
That sounded really complicated and complex at the time. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, how can I, because people were flying in to work with me, right? And I was
Okay.
like, how can I actually leverage this in a different way where I can still impact people, still have more reach, but not have to do the complexities of like building all these systems and delegating and operating, because that wasn't my strong suit at the time. So I decided that I could just teach it to people in different markets. And then that's how I got into coaching. And then so I started, like I said, coaching last August, and now it's been almost a year. And since then, I've been able to transition into coaching and also making about 20 to 30K a month while coaching and teaching people how to do exactly what I did.
Wow. Yo, Julian, just going through your journey and how you transition is exactly what I envision a lot of the listeners on this podcast desire to do is, hey man, I want to make that first 1K and then be able to, crank it up to, 5 to 10 to 30 plus, right? And it's
Yeah.
all about starting out. And the one thing that I took away from what you just shared is the fact that you were always able to identify an opportunity and immediately take action on it. And I feel like for some people that's not an easy skill to develop. And I would love to get your thoughts on like what does that process look like for you when it comes to being able to identify an opportunity and then just not twiddling your thumbs but taking action on it.
Okay. So when I was like into music,
Mm-hmm.
right? For example, I was working on this album for a long time. It was
Mm-hmm.
called Lost Boy. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was working on it so long, and then someone else dropped an album called Lost Boy. His
Mm-hmm.
name is Corday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that kind of ruined everything for me, like my entire, drop, because it was like really good music, right?
Yeah.
And then at that point, I said, a lot of us have the same ideas, right? Like we have certain frequencies that we can tap into.
Mm-hmm.
God gives us all, different things.
Yeah.
There's certain trends out there, and we aren't the only person who's thinking about doing something. So I was tired of not taking action and then people moving forward with the ideas that I already had. So I said, I'm not going to let that
Mm.
happen again. So if I ever see an opportunity, I just
Mm-hmm.
have to seize it
Yeah.
because I don't want someone to get there before me. And once I started to do that,
Mm-hmm.
I started to see results because success loves speed.
Yeah.
So if you're just sitting on the sidelines, right, and you have a great idea and you want to do something,
Mm-hmm.
that idea alone is not going to get you the result. It's taking action.
Yeah.
And through
Wow.
taking that, yep, and through taking that action, things will start to unravel, right? Because now I'm at a point where I'm actually saying no to more things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because now it's like I have something that works, so I can't just keep jumping ship, right?
Right.
Because as entrepreneurs, we get cocky thinking that we can make anything work, which we probably can, but that doesn't mean that it's the wise thing to do. It's like
Right.
once you have a viable product, which is once you get to that 10K month mark, you have something that's actually working. Then it's just about doubling down on that and seeing that all the way through rather
Mm-hmm.
than jumping ship. So now I'm at the point where I'm trying to not jump to every single opportunity there is. But it all
Yeah.
started with me, watching people like take ideas that I thought were mine, but they weren't, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
just like we're just on the same wavelength. And I
Mm-hmm.
watched them do the things that I had envisioned for myself to do. So at that point, I was like, I just have to make a choice, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
um, get stuck behind. And another thing that I left out during my story was there
Mm-hmm.
was a point where I was frustrated with the ups and downs, right? Because it wasn't just like a straight shot up, right?
Right.
I had good months and I had slow months. And there was a point where I was super into like cryptocurrency, NFTs, that whole wave. And I saw an job open for a video producer role for this company called Coinbase. They're like the largest exchange in cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, that'd be a really cool job to have. I said, I can make videos in this industry and just be a part of it. And it's tech, right? It's tech and it's finance. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, this is good money. So I ended up applying for that job. Um, and actually, so when I went to apply, they actually took down the post,
Mm.
and I like went into panic and was like, oh shit, like I wanted to really do this. So I made like a video resume, right?
Okay.
And I put it out on Twitter and it kind of went like viral, right? So I
Wow.
ended up number one, the listing wasn't down. They just had to like repost it because they posted it as if there was like 20 job openings in every city,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it was really just that I only had one position open really.
Okay.
But I put it out on Twitter. It went viral within that community, and I ended up getting to the front of the line. So out of 1,500 people that applied, I made into the top two.
Wow.
And every time I talk to people, like I talked directly like to people who worked at Coinbase who were like part of the team before I even interviewed. And they're like, I'm going to share this with the team. And then every interview I had, they're pretty much just talking about how they loved my resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up not getting that job. They went with someone who had more experience with like live streaming and working within like a corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get that job. It was like 15K base plus stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had this whole, it was so close to me that I was going to make that income that I was like, you know what? I didn't get it, but now I want it. Like I tasted it. Like I was already planning to get a Tesla, right? Like I was planning all this out. I was like, I'm not going
Yeah.
to let that, you know, like it's like I tasted it. Now I have to get it by myself, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
when I locked in and really started to get into like scaling and focusing and
Mm-hmm.
removing all distractions. But then what's crazy is that about 2 months later, that entire team got laid off.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
wasn't meant to be there.
Yeah. Yo, divine timing, man. Like
Yep,
it's really a real thing.
for
And
sure.
just hearing about your journey, one of the things that I would love to kind of highlight for the audience is you have a lot of skills in your stack, as they will call it, right? When you look at the ability to be able to consistently earn over $1,000 a month, which is the goal for our listeners here, what would you say is the money making skill that you would attribute to helping you to be able to do that?
Just knowing how to make content, like
Hmm.
that's very it's in demand right now, high demand.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Facebook Reels, we have YouTube. It used to be just for content creators, but now businesses can benefit too. So
Right.
that's a super in-demand skill is knowing how to make content. So if you can learn how to make content for people, whether it's just with your iPhone, right? If you
Hmm.
can help a business owner make content, like you can easily make your first 1,000. So I think that's the best skill to have. And because you're forced to like put your hands on something
Hmm.
and talk to people in person, because a lot of the other jobs are getting automated, right? Like I used to charge
Right.
a lot for video editing.
Hmm.
And then people started outsourcing to overseas editors because they're a lot cheaper
Yeah.
because the currencies don't have as much buying power as we do. But now we have AI editors who are much cheaper too. So like that's the type of
Hmm.
business that I wouldn't start or a skill set that I wouldn't develop
Hmm.
because it could be taken away. But people who own businesses like you're a busy man, right? So
Hmm.
there's certain things that you just don't want to do. So you can
Right.
focus on the higher leverage things, which is focusing on the thing that's going to generate you the most income, right? But if you could have someone who could just come shoot a few videos for you that could help you generate income, right? Rather than you having to do it
Hmm.
yourself, that's a really good skill. And you would definitely pay that person because they are number one, helping you reach your ideal audience, helping you reach your ideal client, and saving you time in the process.
Love it, man. Love it. And before we kind of transition into looking at, your current business, how it operates, some of the things that you have going on, I would love for you to share, based on what you just said in regards to that money making skill of creating content for business owners. Are there any books, any courses or resources that you would personally recommend to help somebody who wants to start doing that?
I mean, selfishly, just my YouTube channel. Like that's what I
Yeah.
talk about.
Plug it,
Also,
man.
also my Instagram at Manifest Wallace, right? Like
Yes, sir.
I've helped people go from zero. So, okay, right, we're the goal here is to make your first 1K, right?
Hmm.
I've helped people go from zero to 10K,
Hmm.
right? Because it's all about having a product market fit, right? So if you
Right.
can just learn the skill of what pain points business owners have and how to solve those skills and solve those problems, like if you can take people from pain to pleasure within your content, like the biggest problem businesses have is lead generation, right? So if
Right.
you can just pull up your phone, go on YouTube and look how to like film, how to make yourself look good, and let's talk about how, small businesses in your city or choose a niche can benefit from content, how it could help them build their brand, how it could help them stand out in a crowded market, rise above the noise, right? How it could help them attract their clients. If you can do that, right, and then do exactly what you learn how to do for yourself for them, they will
Hmm.
pay you.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good. That's good. And one of the things that I think is extremely important, especially when we talk about the consistency as a business owner, are our daily habits. What do you believe is the most important daily habit for aspiring entrepreneurs and content creators to develop?
Just showing up
Hmm.
for yourself every day and sticking to your plans. Like as long as you can knock out one thing a day on your list, you're good. Like sometimes I'll overwhelm myself by having too many things on my list that I end up not getting anything done, right? So if you can like
Yeah.
prioritize one big boulder that you need to, complete,
Hmm.
just take it from there and just always like work on yourself. Like once you decide on your skill set, so let's say it is, video content, then if you're starting from scratch, then make sure you're practicing daily, right? Make sure you're working on
Hmm.
it, you're getting better at the actual filming. Then, okay, now let's get into copy. Learn how to script your videos, make them valuable, catchy, attention grabbing, right? Just focus on that. Just focus
Hmm.
on getting 1% better every day, but don't compare your day one to someone else's day 1,000, right? So
Right.
it's in this life, it's like it's your journey, it's you versus you. So if you can just focus on you getting better, right? And one thing that
Hmm.
always sets me in the right direction is just
Hmm.
getting healthier and working out. Like for me, that usually kickstarts my momentum as far as accomplishing everything else. So if you can also
Hmm.
dedicate to at least like walking a day, like walking like a mile a day or a couple miles a day, or going to the gym, right? Getting your physical strength good, your physical health, that can lead to you having a stronger mindset.
Nah, that's dope, man. Yeah, and I can totally relate to the points that you've been making in regards to, just taking action. I think that that's one of the challenges that people tend to run into is, stacking their calendar, trying to do 101 things a day. Like, man, I have definitely been in that position, and I know how valuable it is when you don't stack so much or put so much pressure on yourself. But like you mentioned, just focus on what are the activities that will allow you to improve, and this is the key thing, those money making skills, right? Because sometimes we may focus in on the wrong things, but we want to make sure that one thing that we're isolating is something that is going to get us closer to that goal that we've set. So nah, man, that's really dope. And I want to turn my attention now to your business, right? You make well over 1K a month now. And I know you talked about, providing the services for your clients and then getting to a point where you're teaching other people and coaching other people how to do it. Are you currently still doing both of those, or is there one that you're more focused on at this time?
Yeah, so you can't serve two masters, right? So
Right.
in my head, I've been 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I've always
Mm-hmm.
considered going back to the agency space
Mm-hmm.
because I know, like the things that I know now, I know I could do better.
Mm-hmm.
But I've already gotten so much momentum doing what I'm doing that I'm just working out how to make that better and how I can be more competitive within this market, right?
Right.
So I'm strictly just focusing on making this program and community the best that it can be by also like so a lot of the people that I've helped, right, who are like struggling, now I'm
Mm-hmm.
transitioning them into coaching with me,
Nice.
right?
Nice.
Because they have their agencies, they're doing it live, right? Like real time, and
Mm-hmm.
they've also proven that the system works.
Right.
So that allows me to have multiple touch points with, new people that join, and allows me to have proof that the system works so well that these people are coaching people on it now too, while they're still growing their content agencies. So
Man,
it's strictly
that's
that now.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so cool. So cool, man. And when you look at it, how many people would you say you've served so far with your business?
I'd say about 50 to 60 at this point in the last
Wow,
year.
that's amazing. That's amazing, bro. Yeah, that's so many lives being changed by the service that you're offering and the help that you're giving them.
Literally, like, because when I first started, I was like, I hope this works. It's like,
Yeah.
I know, for example, like if I was in Michigan where you live, that
Yeah.
I could set up shop, I know exactly how to advertise, the type of content to make, how to acquire clients. Like I know I could do it, right?
Hmm.
I was like, okay, but I hope other people can do it too.
Right.
I made sure that I gave them a lot of attention, and then it turned out it worked, right?
Nice.
Because there's certain systems and methods that I use that will work anywhere,
Hmm.
right? And then it
Hmm.
worked, and I was like, man, and it's like people will literally say that I changed their life, right? It's like
Yeah.
more than they got more out of it than they did from college, right? And
Yeah.
it's like you can't work like, for example, if you work at a job,
Hmm.
there's no way you can ask for a raise every day, right?
No.
Well, you can ask for a raise every month. But when you decide to go into entrepreneurship and you have the right offer, right? You know how to market yourself, you know how to, build your team, you know how to create systems. When you do that, it gets really simple to actually scale, but you can only get to that point through guidance. So it took me a while to get to this point through trial and error. And then at one point I said, I'm tired of trial and error. Let me invest. Right. So I invested in courses, I invested in coaching, and that took all the things that I learned and I created my systems based off that. But it wasn't until I stopped trying to do things alone that I actually saw real progress.
Nah, that's the way it is, man. Is taking it incrementally, right? It comes in sets, in steps, it comes in stages. And I think that that is often the challenge that a lot of beginners run into is you mentioned it before, comparing their day one to somebody's day 1,000 is very similar to looking at the step that they're taking right now or they need to take versus the step that they hear a lot of people talking about, right? And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast is because we know that there's a lot of business gurus and people giving, really great advice. But what I come to notice is that it often doesn't reach the beginners where they are. It's usually for people that are further along their journey. And I think one of the most confusing things for a lot of beginners are trying to apply steps that are not the steps they need to where they're currently at.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's
Yep.
honestly like there are people who can take people like, hey, if you're tired of your 9 to 5, you burnt out, this is what you do. Like there are people who pitch those
Mm-hmm.
and they can help. But the biggest problem is that when people are trying to make their first 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's hard to get them to believe in themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
why a lot of people will just try to attract people who have some motion
Mm-hmm.
because they are easier to deal with, at least mindset wise.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know if you know Myron Golden. Do you know him?
Yes. Yes, I'm familiar
Yeah.
with them.
So I love his content.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing he said that resonated with me is like someone, for example, who wants to make the first, $1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a becoming problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
like they have to become the person that's worthy of that. And
Mm-hmm.
because of their past experiences, it's going to be a little harder for them to unlock that they can do that
Mm-hmm.
versus someone who's making 50K a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they want to get to, let's say, 100K, 200K. They just
Mm-hmm.
have an awareness problem.
Mm-hmm.
So they're willing to pay someone tens of thousands of dollars just to make them aware of what they didn't know. And they'll
Yeah.
pay that and just be fine. They'll just take one nugget and they'll be good because they've already made it to those additional steps. So that's why what you're doing is so awesome because it's the like people making who want to make the first 1,000, they need to know that they just have to unlock certain things and break those limiting mindsets. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you start to get some motion, then you start to have more self-belief and you say, okay, this can actually work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about once you cross the milestone, it's very similar to one of the things that one of my spiritual mentors was teaching me about faith and prayer, right? I know that for me personally, and I don't mean to take it into a spiritual direction, but I just want to use this as an example. Um, Prayer had been something that I struggled with. Like it wasn't something that really came easy to me. Like I would literally have to, make a concerted effort to, take the time, know what I want to say, all of that type of stuff. And one of the things that my spiritual mentor taught me is it's only a challenge when you haven't experienced it. Praying for something, having faith in something is so much harder to do when it's something that you haven't lived or experienced. But once, God takes you through something, or to bring it back to business, once you experience making that first 500, making that first 1,000, it becomes, I know I can do that. I've done it before. I know it's not something that's an impossibility. It's not something that I'll never be able to do. And once you have that in your back pocket, it becomes a lot easier to say, okay, now how can I double that? How can I triple that? How can I 10x that? Right. That's the way that I kind of look at it based on what you just were sharing. That's what it made me think of.
100%. Because at every level, we know we can hit that level, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I was able to sidestep from my agency to coaching and
Hmm.
make the same amount. But I'm actually making more because I'm working less, right?
Hmm.
But now
Mhm.
for me, it's like, okay, how can I break past my, past barriers, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like the biggest thing in the world to accomplish because I haven't done it before,
Mhm.
right? But I see people next to me, peers, who they sidestepped and they were making like I have a friend who is making over 100K within his content agency, and then he sidestepped into coaching, and now he's back to making like 80K, right?
Mhm.
Because that's where his ceiling already was. So for him,
Mhm.
he has that mindset and has the level of discipline to get there, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to that point, but like you said, now it comes into like faith. It's like going into like the unknown because we've never
Mhm.
been there before.
Mhm.
But once we, like you said, start to get our first thousand and
Mhm.
start to increase from there, we do build self-belief in knowing that, hey, all we have to do is just, you know, stay consistent and then figure out how to get to the next step. But we know that it is possible.
Yeah. And I don't know what that process has looked like for you, but when I think about how did I go from one stage to the next, the one thing that became apparent for me is identifying the one prevailing principle that I know if I stick to it will get me to that place. And I think that that is where looking at mentors such as, like you mentioned earlier, Myron Golden and other people who are, uber successful, what did they do at the stage where you're trying to get to? And when you can just identify what that is, then it becomes a lot easier. And, talking about beginners, the people that are listening to this podcast, I think it goes back to what you had mentioned at the top of our conversation, which is they have to be able to identify an opportunity that will ultimately be profitable, right? And then they have to take action. And I think that in combination with that, it's just a matter of continuing to do it until you get there. And I think that is the prevailing principle that I've seen when it comes to getting to 1K plus and then expanding it is just not quitting. No matter how long it may seem like it's taking you, no matter how challenging it may be seeming to try to get a new client, man, just keep at it if you know that what you're doing is going to be profitable and that it's work for other people as well.
Exactly. And the cool thing with social media that it's free, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like the best business to start is like a service business because it's free. It just takes like sweat equity, right?
Right.
Let's say you want to start like a cleaning business. Okay, the way to get clients is to make content showing you cleaning, right? It's free. And then
Mm-hmm.
start reaching out to people, right? DMing them, commenting, right? Showing supports like, hey, do you need a cleaner? And then that's how you can get your first 1,000 right there, right? You just have to pick your vehicle, which is based on like what you're passionate about, what your skill sets are, right? Start from there because we all have different skills. We all have things that we're more interested in, that we have more passion in, right? So I would
Mm-hmm.
start there and then advertise yourself through content. It's free, right?
Yeah.
And then once you have content out there that's showing what your service does, then reach out to people and that's how you make your money. Like I watch all types of people. Like I watch power washers, car
Mm-hmm.
washers, people mow lawns, right? And they just advertise
Right.
it on social media and that's how they get business.
Yeah. Yeah, man. In today's day and age, like being a business owner or an entrepreneur and a content creator, they're like synonymous. And it's
Mhm.
almost any business that is unwilling to create content, especially if they're a new business, they're just asking for it to be way more difficult than it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So with
And
that in mind, man. Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I
Didn't mean to
think
cut you
like the
off.
best way, because
Hmm.
like I think what a lot of people get wrong
Hmm.
is they try to make money just as a content creator, which is
Right.
how can I get
Right.
this TikTok fun, right?
Hmm.
How can I get this YouTube ad money,
Right.
right? Or they're trying to how can I get this brand partnership? How can I get this sponsorship money?
Hmm.
That is a revolving like door, and you're on a hamster wheel, right? And you have to
Yeah.
follow trends, be viral. You have to post multiple times a day versus starting a business and just using social media to advertise it.
Facts.
Right. So that way you
Yeah.
can have an offer that maybe it's $100, maybe it's $1,000, right? But you have an
Hmm.
actual offer that you're promoting so that when you get a sale, right? you
Mm-hmm.
know how to like it's if the offer is $100 and you want to get to 1,000, then you need to sell it 10 times,
Right.
right? Versus trying to get money from the actual platforms by being like a comedian or like a dancer, right? Like that's not a sustainable way at all. Like some people can do it, right? And good for them, but I think it'd be a lot easier for you listening to this if you were to start a business, start some type of side hustle, and then use social media and content to leverage that.
Man, I couldn't have said it any better, man. Like what you just said is spot on. And when I look at my journey, Julian, that was the biggest mistake that I made. 10 years ago, I started out as a content creator, and it was only maybe the last 3 years that I started to realize the mistake that I made before and how the foundation needs to be a business if you ultimately want to monetize, right? Because all we saw when I was coming up is just people creating content and oh man, they were able to make some money from it. But the more I started to learn about business, I recognized that that is the foundation. That is what you build everything on. Like the content itself just becomes a vehicle to get people to know about your business, to want to work with you, and to eventually be able to get you to that place where you're making money without being dependent upon those platforms.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I gotta ask you this, man. Like, especially being in the position that you've been in, all of the things that you've accomplished so far, what does the future look like for you? And more specifically, what is a big goal that you personally are looking to achieve within the next 6 to 12 months?
So for me, I did like my dream life calculator.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it's, you know, creating your dream life, right? And saying like, okay, this is the car I want to drive. This is the house I want. This is how much time I want to vacation. This is how much I want to shop, how often I want to get massages, how many haircuts I want to get,
Yeah.
right? And then you just calculate that versus what your normal expenses are that you have monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to have my, dream life, because at the end of the day, I'm a simple man, right? Like I just want
Mm-hmm.
freedom. I don't need to have like the biggest business in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to do what I want to do every day to get paid well, to travel and to take care of my family. That's it, right? So for
Right.
me, that number, including taxes, right, would be for me to be about 65K a month.
Okay.
So my goal in the next 6 to 12 months is to hit that number and to hit it consistently by creating
Mm-hmm.
it through like MRR, monthly recurring revenue.
Right.
And my goal to do that is by continuing to build my community,
Mm-hmm.
the Authority Creators, which is my program, and be able to help people and bring on new coaches and just build like a really cool community where we help people you know scale their agencies, right, but also
Mm-hmm.
become authorities, right?
Yeah.
So to me, like an authority, I call the Authority Creators because, like I told you before, like being a content creator is simply making content with the hopes of like going viral to generate business, sponsorships, getting paid by the different platforms versus being an authority creator is getting paid because you're an authority and you're well known in your niche or industry. You become the go-to person because you're specialized, right? So I'm building a
Mm-hmm.
community of people who are all becoming authorities. And the goal is just to build that out, to have, daily calls, to have in-person events, to make all the courses really good, to just have a thriving community and just continue to scale that.
That's dope, man. That's dope. And this is a kind of like a follow-up question to that based on what you were sharing. I'm curious for you what your approach looks like when it comes to, building your community. Like, do you primarily focus in on IG, YouTube, email, ads? Like, which one is like your primary driver when it comes to attracting and building your community?
So I call it the like authority funnel.
Okay.
And essentially it's all ran through Instagram with
Mm-hmm.
a combination of YouTube and paid ads right now.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
as a business owner, like you said, to make your first 1,000, it doesn't need to be super complex, right?
Right.
But the more you make, the more complex it does become if you want to
Hmm.
continue to scale. So right now, my main driver is through posting content on Instagram, valuable content that speaks to my ideal audience.
Hmm.
And then I run paid ads that are saying, hey, follow me and go through my past content to learn for more. Right. So people come from my paid ads, they go through my content, and then I hit them with like value bombs where they get
Yeah.
nurtured and I build
Hmm.
authority and I build trust. Right. And then
Hmm.
from there, I reach out to every single person that follows me or engages with my account to see if I could be of service to them and if they're an ideal client and to see if, they, um, to see if I can actually help them. Right. So everyone
Yeah.
isn't qualified. Everyone that follows me is an ideal client, but I
Hmm.
still reach out to see if they are. And then from there, if they are, I'll send them to my YouTube channel to
Hmm.
watch longer form videos so they can continue to be nurtured. And then I'll book a call with them, right? And through that call, essentially, I'm just letting them know, like, hey, this is what I offer. This is the problem that you have. Here's how I can solve it. And that's how I have been growing it up until this point. And
I
then
love it.
next, thank you. The next phase is going to be okay, growing more on the YouTube side because I've gotten clients from
Hmm.
YouTube and that's
Hmm.
free.
Hmm.
But YouTube, as you know, it takes longer to build
Yeah.
and it's like more long form, but that is like a
Right.
long play is like getting that free money from YouTube. And
Hmm.
then also I know I do need an email list. Like I have all these emails, but I'm not giving any newsletters out. So then also doing that too, because I know you
Yeah.
have to own your audience. So that's like also a step that's within my plan.
Yo, that's amazing, man. I know you're gonna accomplish it just based on your tenacity and your determination. And that's all been through how your journey has played out thus far. And yo, Julian, this has been an amazing conversation. What I would love for you to do before we wrap up is if you could rewind the clock, remember yourself back before you made that first 1K plus per month. What is one thing that you would leave or share with your old self and our new listeners today?
If it was with my old self,
Hmm.
I would say just continue to trust your gut and your intuition and to just keep moving forward and don't let, you know, the outside world dictate what you want for yourself. And to realize that when you look around, literally like Jay, if you look around right now, everything
Hmm.
that you're looking at was created by somebody,
Right.
by a man,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Which lets you know that there is an abundance of opportunity out there for us and that this actually is attainable because everything I'm looking at was created by somebody and somebody's making money from it. So
Yeah.
that alone should let you know that your dreams of being an entrepreneur, of making your first 1,000, of making more than that is attainable because it's been done by so many people. And just because you decide to do it doesn't mean that it's not going to work, right? So you just
Right.
have to bet on yourself, right? Pray, have faith,
Hmm.
and just focus on attracting the life that you want. But in order to do that, you just have to number one get clear on what you want and then just focus on the inputs. So you don't have to think about the entire goal, just focus on the steps that will get you there.
Man, I love it. Yo, Julian, you have dropped so many gems, bro. Like I've been collecting them. I know our audience is gonna be collecting them when this is released, man. And before we go, I just want to hand the mic over to you. Any last or closing words or any questions that you like to ask me before we wrap up today?
Just good job with this show. Like it's very valuable. I can see it's going to help a lot of people, and especially like, our people, black people, people of
Hmm.
color. Like, these are things that we need to hear
Yeah.
because a lot of people because I am black, I attract black people, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times I have to like, it's like pulling teeth to let them know like what's possible.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we have like in this country, we have the lowest amount of buying power, right?
Hmm.
Compared to any other race.
Hmm.
So we need things like this to let us know what's possible
Right.
so that once we get motion, you know, then we say, okay, that actually worked. But a lot of it's like a lot of people think things are scams or they think it's too good to be true. But we all have access to the internet, right? So
Hmm.
if you have access to the internet, that means you can be successful because all the information is free now. right? So
Facts.
turn off, like stop watching just music videos, right? Stop just watching sports and actually start seeking out information. So I think if more people just seeked out information rather than listening to the music talking about being, a scammer or, a drug dealer or a gangster, right? Like
Right.
just seek out information and say, hey, go online and say, how can I make money? There will be
Hmm.
a lot of things that pop up that are legit that all you have to do is just follow those steps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So really like this was a great conversation. I love what you're doing because I never thought about the first 1,000, right? Because
Yeah.
like I said, that's so far so
Right.
long for me. But like I'm thinking like bigger numbers,
Yeah.
but getting to that first 1,000 is very important. It's
It
like
is.
so crucial.
Yeah. Yeah, man, and that kind of goes to the heart of why I wanted to start this podcast is because oftentimes it's easy to forget what it was like back then. And for many people, that's the hardest step. Like you hear even the most successful people talk about how difficult it is to get from 0 to 1. And I'm like, man, if it's so difficult, like we need more people helping people to get from 0 to 1, not because it's the most profitable, but because like that is where people need the most help. And that's really where I changed my direction. And, I'm glad that I did. I think that it'll be helpful to so many people that are coming along and starting their journey. And I appreciate you for coming on, sharing your wisdom, your insights. And man, you dropped so many gems, dude. Like I am so grateful, Julian. And I just want to thank you again for coming on and being a guest on the podcast, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. If you're ever interested in coming back, man, it'd be an honor to have you back on.
Hell yeah, man. Let's do it.